care can come as a job that one did not apply for, anticipate, or even desire to do. However, whether a responsibility or an obligation, it is a task that must be done by a family member or a professional to assist the elderly. Today, we examine the challenges as well as resources available to best care for the elderly in our families or communities in their golden years. Hello and welcome. I am Oriani Tangishaka, and this is Our Voices. Here with me are my co-hosts, Ginny Niwa and Semenish Yakoye. Ladies, did you ever experience taking care of an elderly in your family or someone who was ill and just had to step in and do what you had to do?
Personally, not with full responsibility. I remember helping out when my parents and when my aunts were taking care of my grandmother. After all her children were married, she lived with one of my aunts and she was taking full responsibility. But the others did not also live that far away, so they always alternate to help out each other. I was young, maybe like in high school. But now I'm an adult and it's now time for me to take care of my parents, but I don't live close to them. So we have a family member living with them and I oversee things from here. But it feels so different, like it feels different from what I used to see when I was young or from what I was expecting I would do when I get older. And it comes with some kind of guilt as well.
What about you, Niwa?
So I haven't experienced it, but I'm also a second generation diaspora. So my mother and her sisters, and they're all in their 60s. So now there's a question on whether they're going to live with us, stay with us, or should we, prepare for them to return to the country. But we know that they're not going to have like the proper care. We don't think so. Right. So, and even that conversation, we don't have that conversation.
It's a scary one.
It's a scary one, and it's not in our culture. Culturally, if you talk about somebody being sick in the future or die, it's not
like
a good look.
A bad wish.
Yes.
It would be considered as
exactly.
That's true. We do avoid it a lot. Well, for me, a personal story is that I had a family member who was very sick. And they were getting older. So it was my father, by the way. So when that happens in a family, we find ourselves like, oh, wait, somebody has to step in. You go through different phases. You go through the phases of being sad that the person is sick or getting older. You go through the phase of frustration of who's going to do it because everybody has a job.
And it was here.
And it was here in the West. And you go through different phases as a family, the arguing, the sadness, the throwing the responsibilities on each other. And then you go through, let's just take care of this family member. But those stages are very rough. If you're not prepared for them, it's really rough. So I think it's something that really should continue to be talked about in families
Definitely.
to anticipate.
Yeah.
Well, while the issue of caring for an elderly in Africa is seen as a natural responsibility of the families or communities, the African Union has also enshrined in the provision of the protection of the rights of older persons as well as people with disabilities in their organization's charter. The protocol to the African Charter on Older Persons also provide guidance on how to make society more respectful of older people's rights. It includes standards to help combat ageism and age-based discrimination. However, according to the African Union's website, only 20 countries have signed on to the charter and only 12 countries have ratified it.
Well, in many African societies, elders are highly regarded as important figures who keep the culture alive and guide the young. However, sometimes that influence on society does not help when it comes to obtaining health care. Juma Majinga reports from Nairobi, Kenya.
In Nairobi's informal settlements of Kibra, we meet Anne Musanga, a 70-year-old widow. She says that all her relatives died and she has no one she can depend on if she gets sick. She says her biggest problem is not being able to get medicine when she needs it.
When you visit a hospital like this one, you get examined, but you're told there's no medicine. That's the challenge we have. We're asking ourselves, is it that we, the elderly, are not supposed to get treatment? Or indeed, there are no medicines? That's what we don't understand.
65-year-old Daniel Ngogi is also a resident of Kibra. He's had a similar experience.
Kama ni upande wa matibabu, tuna shida.
We have a problem with health. Sometimes, if I go see a doctor and tell them my body is aching, you hear them whispering to each other that my problem is just old age. The respect that an elder used to be accorded is no longer there.
Domitila Ogaro, a clinical health services coordinator for Kibra Sub-County, says that despite the global increase in life expectancy and therefore in old age adults, developing countries have not had a corresponding increase in social and healthcare support systems for them.
As we are dealing, we always interact with the old, the elderly, and when they come to our facilities, majority of them mostly present with the non-communicable diseases. When I talk of non-communicable diseases, we have hypertension, which is the commonest. We have diabetes, we have mental health issues, we have cancer issues, we have, then now we have the communicable diseases as well.
Accommodate as many older persons.
To help, Agnes Karaoke founded the Kibera Daycare Center for the Elderly as a way to bring old adults together. The center says that since its inception over 3 decades ago, it has helped over 6,000 people, including 1,200 who are currently enrolled. While it can't help them get the medication or the care they need, Karaoke says it can help in other ways.
They have a shoulder to cry on. They come and interact with their peers. What we do is invite expert speakers like doctors, nutritionists, lawyers, or social workers to speak with them.
Old age comes with different challenges. As for Musanga and Ngugi, they hope their access to care will improve. Juma Majanga, VOA News, Kibra, Kenya.
Well, for a better understanding of the trends of elder care on the continent, we turn to Dr. Akosua Agyemang, Senior Lecturer at the Department of Social Work, Center for Aging at the University of Ghana. Dr. Akosua, thank you so much for being with our voices. Can you hear me, Doctor?
Thank you.
Right. Well, as you follow closely elder care in Africa and in Ghana, as you follow closely elder care on the continent and specifically in Ghana, tell us briefly, historically, how have families viewed the care of elderly? And is it viewed or handled differently today?
Thank you very much for that question. Yes, historically, Ghana, a lot of the family members, shall I say all family members, caregiving for the elderly was the preserve of the family members and the community, such that if siblings or children of these older persons are not in the community members can take care. They prepare food, give it to the older person and handle everything about this older person. And it was based on reciprocity, as I stated in my paper, where in our Ghanaian culture, there's a balance that says that if you take care of me to grow my teeth, then I take care of you to lose yours. Meaning that when the older persons take care of their children to grow up, then the children in turn take care of the older persons when they are not able to take care of themselves. And so that was the order of the day. And everybody in the family, everybody in the community was involved in this. Today, it is not so 100% because society have changed. And most of these young people that are supposed to be in the communities to take care of these older persons are going to the urban centers, migrating to the urban centers, and even to the west for greener pastures, and being attracted by the cornucopia of Western goods, so they want to go find money and then come. And because of that, these younger ones are not in the communities again. If you look at education, for example, it's also playing a role because ladies or women were supposed to take care, mostly in our African context. Now we are all going to school, so the children are no more around this older person in the communities. And so caregiving for these older persons is not as it's used to. And one of the reasons is also that we used to be an extended family where we have our grandmothers, grandchildren, everybody in one place. Today, we are all going nucleation because society is changing. And so sometimes grandchildren are not even able to even meet with their grandparents. And so caregiving is becoming a problem now because of the cracks or the breakdown of the extended family. So we still have them in piecemeal,
right, doctor,
in our various communities.
So things, yes, doctor. So things are changing. We're going from the community being involved to almost one individual sometimes. So what is and what should be the role of local, state, government in the lives of the elderly?
Thank you very much. We always, recommend that government comes in. In our part of the world, here in Ghana, we have what we call the aging policy, which is not even passed into a bill. So we a law, so you cannot even use that. But if governments come in and there's a budget, then something can be done. Currently, we have the NHIS, we have LEAP, we have some small things in piecemeal that help with these older persons. But those who qualify mostly are those who are in the formal sector. But what about those who are in the rural area? So we're advocating that either we come back to where we were in the extended family, or government comes up with a program and a policy like you have in the West, where maybe we have some soup kitchens here, we have nursing homes there that people can go to or send their older persons when they are not able to take care of them. Here we don't have. NGOs are playing a role. Individuals are also playing a role. Center for Aging Studies is also playing a role, but it's just in some piecemeal. It's not government-based or state-based. So sometimes it's very difficult for them to even get funding to run the program that they are supposed to run.
So maybe,
one of the things
maybe let's talk about the Ghana case specifically. You mentioned that the elder care role is evolving. So who is filling the gap? Are NGOs or community centers sufficiently closing this gap in elder care?
In fact, it's the NGOs and individuals that are closing the gap. As I said earlier, government have no institutions yet for older persons to go to. So some NGOs and individuals have come out with some of these institutions that they accept older persons to care for. But it's very expensive, so it's not everybody that can send their older people there. But at least they are trying to close the gap for us. A lot of groups are springing up. Churches are also gathering these older persons, and more or less just for philanthropy, where they can, hand some things over to them and then link them to resources where they can find. But currently, they are the ones that are closing the gap and not the state.
Absolutely.
The state established institutions
right.
or something that says that
Dr. Akosua, we want to thank you.
Especially when they are social care is involved.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing, this issue into light. We understand that there's so much more work to do. We truly appreciate your time and insight. It's now time for a short break. When we return, we'll talk with Dr. Ayeshia Quainoo-Tefera, registered nurse, and founder of the Ultimate Care LLC for care of Africa's elderly. She said that it is vital to provide the elderly care in the comfort of their home to improve their quality of life. What are your thoughts on this topic? We ask you to share this on our social media platform at VOA Africa. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, an old virus now has a new strain that has spread worldwide and is now a global health emergency. Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox, spread from the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2022. The virus is changing faster than expected, and many countries across Africa do not have the tools to fight it. Join me, Vincent McCory, for an in-depth conversation on fighting Mpox on the next Straight Talk Africa.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
Welcome back. You are watching Our Voices. We are discussing elder care, ways to improve lives of the elderly in our families, and available resources to help them live a fulfilled life. We have invited in studio with us a registered nurse, Ayeshia Quainoo, founder of the Ultimate Care LLC for care of Africa's elderly. Ms. Quainoo, thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And you advocate a lot about caring for the elderly in the home. And this is key for the diaspora people because we just don't believe in putting someone away from us and just paying the money and then caring for them. What is the biggest benefit you advocate for that being the best way to care for them?
Thank you for that question. So home health is the best similarity to what we used to have in Africa, where we care for the community and the family care. The benefits of these include familiarity. They get care in the comfort of their home, what they know, right? Then it's cost effective compared to nursing home. Very cost effective. And also there is the family bonding, right? The intergenerational bonding where grandparents are able to bond and interact with grandchildren. Grandchildren are able to look up to their grandparents. There's transfer of wisdom. And then also it helps with health because then in their health management, they get a personalized, individualized care. Instead of going to a nursing home where one is a one-on-one in the home, but in the nursing home is probably 1 to 10 or 1 to 20.
I would agree with you 100%. When I had my father sick, my children can play with him and it really gave him a boost. And I think that really is the best care, but it's not always the case for everybody else. What do you ladies think?
I mean, yes. So let me ask you about the cost effectiveness you talked about. Because healthcare is getting very expensive, whether nursing home or having somebody come to your house, it's still expensive. So how do you work around the cost of caring for elders, especially in today's economy?
So there are many resources out there, especially if you earn a certain amount of money on Social Security, right? There is the state-provided care that the state pays for it. And then you have the private home, those in the middle class, and unfortunately, it's like those in the middle class are the ones who get squeezed a lot, right?
Those of us.
Yes. So in our offerings, there should be a tier level of care, right? You can have it all, you can have some part of it, and then for us, we do have that. So yes. So it's more about knowing, planning ahead. It's always about planning ahead, right? You know you're going to be aging. So start planning. There are long-term insurance. There is putting money on the side for yourself for care because care is getting pretty costly.
But in line with that, I want to ask you about what about the guilt? For example, I would prefer to take care of my dad because he raised me, and I really want to give that back to my parents. And at the same time, I don't have the time and the resources to do that myself in, as we say, today's economy. But there is that guilt, like, am I not good enough, like, for my dad? Like, I'm not caring enough.
So the most important thing that you have to look at it is the perception, right? You want to be there for your parents, and the best part of being there for your parents is having them home, right? Yeah. And so you are in combination. That's why the government had this home care, community-based home care for the Medicaid people, where we keep them home, the family gets to see them. So it's a partnership between the family and the government and the state, right? And it's a state level. So they pay hours, certain hours, depend on assessment and what they will need, right? And the acuity level of that person. And then the family is able to go out, you're able to go out, do what you have to do, take care of your kids, go to work. And then when you come back, right, you're able to spend time with your dad.
So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win situation.
So it's a nice setting. Is there any tips on, you know, making their life better?
Oh, yes, there is always tips. It is like, you have to understand that you have to manage your time, right? We all have 168 hours in a week, right? So you have to portion your time accordingly. You don't have the time for your kids, time for your spouse, if you're married, time for your parents, right? And also having that conversation with the elderly, your parents, having them understand, right? Times have changed, right? Yeah. You have to make a living. And as I'm making a living, right, I'm still going to be here to support you, right? So it's a family, and we have to be open up to having them be with us, because I had a privilege to do that with my mom.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yes, and unfortunately I lost her in 2015, but I had the privilege to live with her for some time and even take care of her while she was sick.
Yes, I did too, and I just appreciate the fact that I had him until the end. Now, on a service like yours, what do you come into the home and do? Because we had some care come in. Sometimes it's just to help wash the dishes, do his laundry and things like that. What does a service like yours provide?
So services like us, we have a range of services. We have what we call the home health, where skilled nursing is actually provided to disabled or someone who needs nursing services. And then we have the home care base. So with the home care base, that is where you have the ADLs, which we call activities of daily living, where bathing, dressing, eating, assisted ablation and stuff like that. And then we have the IADLs, which is like cleaning, and so it depends on what they need. So we do go in and do assessment, and then customize it according to the client's needs.
Exactly, like some clients they don't have any health challenges. They just need a little help, or sometimes they just need someone to be around.
Yes,
right. So
it's
really nice to have that customized, as you said. So services like yours, I think, are very golden, especially in the diaspora. Do you see any resistance to services like yours? Is it something that they gravitate towards, or
especially among the African communities?
So the African communities, our challenge, I'll say, is that we don't know the resources out there. Because we have the mentality that when we came where we are coming from, we take care of our own. So then we have this overwhelmingness and burden and stress. And then unfortunately, it really tells on the family. But you have to know the resources that is within your community. We are blessed in the diaspora where we have a government provided, structure where if you make a certain amount of money, you are able to be helped. Even if you are in the middle class, it's okay. They have, when they come to an assessment to see if you qualify, and when you qualify for it, they'll say, okay, you make too much money, so you're gonna pay this copay. I will take that any time than having to pay it all.
So it will bring us back to the issue of breaking the taboo of not communicating early enough and not making plans. And what Jeannie was saying, we have to be ready because it's coming.
Yeah, and I also mentioned that, for the diaspora, when you take care of an elderly who came maybe through an immigration process, they're not, founding it. It's It comes, you know, from the children.
Yes, the pocket, yeah, the money, yes. And so I think, like, yeah, you're right. Some of them don't have the Social Security, like you said.
But
they didn't work
always,
here.
Always. See, one of the things that I think most people don't know is that America is a land of grace. Always try, go out there, ask, right?
Resources.
And then let them come and do. Yeah, there
there.
are resources out there.
Okay.
Don't suffer alone and feel so overstressed. Go out there, ask. And if it's no, you did ask. And if it's not, they will point you to the right place.
I agree. There are some organizations that are literally give free money to people in their specific communities. There's always some resources. But give us a glimpse of how much it will cost per month to have a service like yours, maybe not yours if you don't want to share that, but a service like yours, to have someone come in maybe 3 days a week, how much would that cost approximately?
So the hourly rate nowadays has been starting from ranging from $35 to about $40 an hour, right? So it depends on the hours that you need. So if you need somebody for 3 hours, 4 hours, and mostly most agencies will do 4 hours minimum, right? Because there's a travel time and all that costs associated. So if you are looking at that, you're looking at about maybe $500 a week, right? But if it's 8 hours, you're looking about
a little bit
for
more.
a month. You're looking about $4,000 to $5,000. It is costly,
but you know, you have to weigh your options.
Yes, yes. That's why you
and
need
preparing ahead of time and planning for it ahead of time.
planning ahead of time.
And having the conversation that's not comfortable.
No.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Do you help the
it's-
families get that conversation?
Yes, we
Okay.
are always there to help them to have that conversation, and
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay, great. Well, this is our show for today. I'm so thankful you made it to be with us on set. Thanks to all of our guests, Dr. Akosua Agyemang, Senior Lecturer at the University of Ghana, and Ayeshia Quainoo, founder of the Ultimate Care LLC for the care of Africa's elderly. Also, thanks to our editorial and production team on Our Voices on behalf of VOA. Thanks for watching. Until next time, cheers.